And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and we are continuing to go through all kinds of things X-Men United. And there is a lot of X-Men stuff out there, but the X-Men have many villains. I think, undeniably, their most difficult, biggest villain is Apocalypse. And in fact, I would argue Apocalypse is possibly the biggest villain in the Marvel Universe, other than probably Thanos or the cosmic stuff. But on Earth, it's Apocalypse. Read The Age of Apocalypse if you doubt otherwise. Ultron, Apocalypse. So anyway, that's what this set is here. This set adds the Horsemen of Apocalypse and Apocalypse. You want your big bad guy to challenge. Think of this. If you played Marvel United, the Thanos set, this is kind of that way. You fight Apocalypse, but first you fight as 4 horsemen. Also, you can use Apocalypse as a hero because currently in the Marvel Universe, Apocalypse is good, which I don't believe for a second. But anyhow, I digress. Let's see what's in this box. Okay, so really, this box has just, well, first we'll talk, there's Apocalypse the hero. So you can use Apocalypse. I find it very fascinating. His model, he's stepping on an X. He has crushed the X-Men. But Apocalypse, he's an interesting character. You'll see where I rate him when I rate all the heroes. But he has a lot of really powerful things that he can get, but he also kind of hurts people and does bad things to get to that point. So that's kind of interesting. He's not a team player for sure. So there's 2 different ways to fight Apocalypse. First of all, you can just fight Apocalypse straight out. But instead of doing that, you're essentially playing 2 games where you're going to play against the 4 horsemen. So here are the 4 horsemen. And by the way, can we pause and just talk about these are really neat models. So here we have Death, who is actually Archangel, and then 3 other chumps that they brought on to make Archangel look like he was cool. We got Famine, Pestilence, and War. Although Archangel is the coolest of all of them. So when you set this up, you're going to go through. Each of these guys has a very small deck, only 4 cards per each of them. And you're going to remove some cards from this based on the number of players. So let's say you're playing a 3-player game, you just remove 1 of them. And then you're going to stack them, and you're going to fight against 1 person at a time. You fight them in order: Famine, War, Pestilence, and Death. And they're going to start on the board, and their cards are going to do things like, so for example, look at Famine. She just adds a person every location with 1 or more empty slots. Well, that doesn't sound bad. That's kind of what she does in play. But she's going to add lots and lots of people. And if 3 or more locations are fully occupied by people, thugs, or Christ tokens at the end of villain turn, they win. What? Yeah, you got to be really careful. If 3 or more locations are fully occupied, they win. So when you're fighting Famine and War and Pestilence, all 3 of them, you need to stop them from winning before their 3 cards are over. And if you do so, you quote-unquote defeat them. If you don't do so, they win. Either way, you still go to the next person. Also, if any hero's KO'd, they also win very specifically. And in Death, if he KOs someone, they're removed from the game. And if he KOs 2 people, that's how he wins. If you prevent that from happening, you beat him. So why does this matter? This matters because when you fight Apocalypse, these guys are with him. And they're going to show up. And they're going to show up in their full form or their weakened form. And whether they show up in their weakened form is if you defeated them. So for example, Death, when a BAM happens, he moves in the next clockwise location with any heroes and deal 2 damage to a hero there. And he has 5. That's pretty bad, but that's his weakened state. Otherwise, he has 6 health, and he moves and he does 2 unpreventable damage to a hero there. So the more of these you beat, the more weakened they are. Apocalypse himself has some interesting rules here because you're going to have 2 tokens on this track. So if at the end of any turn, 1 or more heroes has taken any damage, you increase his track by 1. When he's KO'd, he doesn't activate his BAM, instead you increase his track by 1. He has no damage on him, if you notice. Instead, you increase the survival track. This game comes with another cube that you'll move here to move up the survival track, and completed missions, beating his henchmen and stuff, will move up his survival track by 2. And you win if the survival tracker surpasses the Apocalypse tracker. So you have to beat him before he gets here, and if he gets to 16, he wins. I haven't beat him yet, but I'm assuming that's really cool at that point. And he also has some special setups here. He'll be starting in Apocalypse's Pyramid, and the heroes start in Starlit Citadel. Notice in this location, villains ignore a damage, and if you end your turn there, you lose a card. Also, it looks kind of cool. I think it's the Luxor. Starlit Citadel, once the first mission is completed, you can replace this location with any other location that's not in play, which is kind of cool. So this is basically it. If you're getting this to fight Apocalypse, or for some reason you really wanted him as a hero. Okay, so again, you're getting this one here. You're getting Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen if you just want to fight him. You'll have to see my rankings of villains, but Apocalypse is kind of high up there. He's very difficult, but I enjoy fighting the Four Horsemen. It's kind of an interesting puzzle. They're going to come up in the same order each time, and they're kind of a learned activity. You're like, ooh, I'm going to do this and that, and this is how you fight against pestilence and so on. But it's an interesting battle with some really cool miniatures. You're not going to get this other than that unless you want the villains involved and another character. But Apocalypse himself is also a hero, which is kind of a unique thing. I don't think he's a fantastic hero. He's a very out of control character as a hero, but then you get all these other miniatures. And so if you're looking for something akin to the Infinity Stones, although I think the Infinity Stones with Thanos was vastly more interesting than Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen, but I still enjoyed this system a lot. So this is a good set to play around with. I think it's fun. So check it out. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment approved!